Welcome to the Three Beards Podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is right.
Then live to send the innocent to their death? Is this justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
Hey, welcome to the podcast, everybody. I'm back for this episode for just a little while, hopefully. So anyway, at this time, we would like to welcome Brad Olsen, author of Beyond Esoteric, along with a couple other books, which fortunately, I was out sick the last one, so I don't have the list with me right now. So I'm going to defer that to Mark there that's got those. But welcome to the show, sir.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Trying to grow out a little beard so I could join you, maybe the four beards. Mark, we want you to have a little beard. What's going on? You guys look good. Thanks for having me on.
I don't have enough estrogen, or I have too much estrogen or something. I don't know. Angela told me to shave. I don't know. Something's just not working out with my facial hair. So,
there we go. You guys got it going on. Chris, Viking, Craig, nice to make your acquaintance.
Yes.
But
did you want me to give a slight bio, or do you want to just jump right in?
No, if you want to give a little one, yeah, that's fine. Like I said, I apologize. Like I said, I'm jumping in late just because myself, I was out sick all week, and so this is when I was having these guys do it. But then I just jumped on to kind of help.
Right on. Yeah, well, Mark has two of my Sacred Places books. I did a series on sacred places. I've done some other travel guidebooks before that. And about 15 years ago, the internet started changing publishing, and I'm a book publisher as well. Yeah, hold those up, Mark. And so I redirected my editorial direction into these esoteric subjects. And basically, in short, what that means is what has been hidden from humanity, similar to the word occult. It just means that which is hidden. But this is what is hidden and basically known by a select few who collect this kind of information, and some ways have been hoarding it for themselves, such as ways that we can enhance ourselves, like decalcifying our pineal gland and developing more superhuman abilities is one chapter I describe in Future Esoteric. So I've been working on this series for over a decade. Modern Esoteric, Future Esoteric came out in the first editions in 2013, 2014, but I've been working on them for 2 or 3 years before that. Where Beyond Esoteric here, the new one, third and final in the series, is just fresh off the presses and is really doing real well. So
it's a fantastic book, by the way.
6 years to put together. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you guys were able to check it out. And I was only able to give you a PDF ebook for now.
Oh no, that was fine. I was reading that, and there's several things in there. Just like that, I really loved what you came up with. Especially, I like the whole karma, introduction type to it. That was pretty cool in that book.
I do that in all my books. seemed to be the thing to do when I did travel books, getting people on the road and just saying, hey, this is what you're getting into. This is the best of my information to give you. And especially with the Sacred Places books, getting people to venture out there, do it right, be mindful when you travel, but always encouraging people to go to these sacred places. And another thing I've done is I've traveled quite a bit, including all 7 continents. And as Mark knows, I just came back from Antarctica about 2 years ago. Still speaking at conferences on it. It's like everybody really wants to know about Antarctica and the megaliths of South America and the giants that you can see down there in museums too. So these are all esoteric subjects, and they're right there in most cases for all of us to go and experience and see. The fact that the media and other ways that this could get out there through the Smithsonian or through government or educational systems, well, there is a concerted cover-up to obscure our early human origins. And that's kind of where the esoteric series starts out, is looking back onto our antediluvian civilizations and other artifacts, as well as other beings who are human-like, but not quite human, that once lived on this earth. So it's a history lesson as well as taking us up to this modern age and what we're seeing. And then, so in beyond esoteric, it's then taking that leap forward and looking ahead, as well as exposing many of these subjects that have been hidden from us.
Brad, since you're looking at ancient history and bringing us up to today in your trilogy, you do cover a lot of how Nazi philosophy worked its way into American corporations, brought a lot of corruption. Obviously, we're dealing with a lot of that today. Did your trip to Antarctica confirm a lot of the research, your research, as well as what has been said about New Schwabenland? How did that trip to Antarctica influence the Brad of today in your new book?
Good question, Mark. I guess I'll speak to myself in third person. Well, the Brad of today has evolved from his trip to Antarctica. Well, I just touched a very tiny corner of the continent, albeit for a month at sea on a sailboat with 11 poles, and there were 3 Americans. And that trip was very galvanizing. It was dangerous. It was not very comfortable, but it was a voyage of discovery. And I guess hearkening back to my Viking ancestors, you can appreciate this, Viking. We love to travel. We love to go to new lands. We love to discover and explore and tell about it. And so that's how it has made me the person I am today, Mark, I guess, to answer your question. But I was traveling before that, and I got big trips planned ahead. So life just keeps going on, and we keep bettering ourselves that way.
Yeah, we've really touched on a couple times, with Antarctica, so it's what is, I think probably the biggest thing for a lot of people is the reason why it's such a mystery is because you're not allowed to do so many things on this continent. Here's one of the biggest continents on the planet, and it's the one that we know the least about.
Well, the second part of that is correct, Craig, but it is actually accessible. That's sort of a misconception that I partly cleared up. I can't say that all parts of it are totally open, but You got to understand, it's very hard to travel across that continent. And it's huge. It is the size of 2 Australias. It's the 5th largest continent. And a good portion of that is covered by the polar plateau, which is 2 miles of ice in the coldest place on Earth. So just to say, oh, yeah, I want to go check out New Schwabenland. Well, you're talking about at least $100,000 budget, a lot of equipment, a lot of people who are good at logistics to get you there. It's not an easy trip, but per the Antarctica Treaty, people are allowed to go there. It is open for science and exploration. It's part of the understanding of all nations signing on to this agreement. In 1961, it was fully ratified. And it's actually one of the best documents that humans have going for them, because it stood all this time, and we have preserved this biosphere of a continent, which is 99% frozen, but there are dinosaur bones that have only been found in Antarctica. There once was a steamy jungle there. There's 91 known active volcanoes, making it the most volcanic continent in the world. So you can imagine what that geothermal activity could do underneath the ice, creating large cavities, creating flowing rivers and streams. And in the continent, one of my slides, I do a presentation called The Hidden Anomalies of Antarctica. In fact, I show several versions of what Antarctica would look like without any ice. And for the Germans, with their U-boat technology, and boy, were those guys brave to do it, but you could literally go hundreds of miles in some of the fjords in Antarctica. That if you knew the way, and I reproduce a map in Beyond Esoteric that has resurfaced in the last couple of years, and another one of the map of New Schwabenland in Beyond Esoteric. But they'll show you how they had a map to go underneath the ice, find some of these fjords under giant ice caverns, and literally go for hundreds of miles. It's just amazing. It's one of the best adventure stories never told. And under that ice, kingdom, empire, you might have alien species. Reportedly, the reptilians have a base down there. And the Nazis were working with them before, during, and after World War II. And they may have been part of what repelled Admiral Byrd during the Battle of High Jump, when a craft came up out of the water. Out of the water. We still don't have technology like this. Wow. Was menacing the fleet. They tried to shoot it down. They couldn't even penetrate whatever force field it had. And then, as an example of what they'll do, they cut one boat in half with a laser, which sunk to the sea with a great loss of life. Admiral Byrd turned around, hightailed it out of there in 2 months into the 6-month expedition, with other countries in tow that were also part of High Jump. And they got their ass handed to them because they had technology beyond our wildest dreams. And this is in 1946. So you can imagine how far these backward engineers technology programs have gone since.
Well, you can imagine just the advancement that the Nazi military complex had going into this. And then if you've given them even just that much of a, free range, just keep, exploring, they're advancing their technology. And now you've gone here, because I've always said that you don't send this, what went down in High Jump was not an exploration mission. This was we sending it, basically it was a mini invasion force.
It was.
Yeah. It's
because they knew what they were up against. The British had been spying on the Nazis before World War II, during World War II, and even after World War II. Some of those spy operations on the Palmer Peninsula are now museums. We walked through one of them which is just the doors unlocked. So few people go there. It's right by the Vernansky base, and it's one of their base buildings that they were spying on the Nazis. What a lonely existence that would have been for guys down there. There was another one, Port Lockroy, which is now a museum, and that too was tasked with spying on the Nazis. So they knew they were down there. I'm pretty sure I could pinpoint the area where the New Berlin base is. It's also called Base 211, and it's near the Schumacher Ponds up in this particular mountain range. So it would be great to go down there with a crew and a film crew and document it. It would be a great series. And we almost did it in 2020 before COVID hit. There was a producer in Hollywood and a few other people that could have made this happen, and we had to suspend our planning about this time last year when everything sort of got put on hold.
Well, hopefully you'll get that back on track.
Hey, Viking, I mean to ask you. Yeah.
Go ahead. Ask a question there, Brad.
Brad, was your trip mainly along the coastline, or were you able to go inland a little bit? Like, where are these bases that you saw, the museums?
Yeah, I was in a very narrow, targeted area of the northern tip of the Palmer Peninsula. You know how South America comes down like this? The very tip is Patagonia, and the island is Tierra del Fuego. Well, the Palmer Peninsula comes up like this, and in between, that's the Drake Passage, the stormiest sea in the world, where the Pacific and the Atlantic meet. So the barrier of entry to go by boat is great. Even on very large cruise ships, about 50% of on our boat, like 75% got seasick, really violently ill. I lost about 25 pounds on that trip. Still been able to keep off about 10 or 15. But where we went, Mark, was just the very northern tip of the Palmer Peninsula. And right around there, it's a beautifully scenic area. There are many rocky mountain islands and protected channels. So this is why it's very popular with cruise ships and even other sailboats. Because once you're in there, then the seas have calmed down a bit. And you can even take these narrow channels. We did the Lemire Channel, which is about 15 kilometers, but only a kilometer wide, with soaring mountains on either side. Really dramatic scenery with whales breaching in the channel, and the animals are we've had whales swim under the boat. You could go right up to look at seals or penguins. There's just so much abundant wildlife. That's one of the impressions I'll always take away.
So I had a quick question. You struck my interest when you said, why is the budget so high to go there? Is it because of the rough seas and you need... so why is the budget so high to get to Antarctica?
Yeah, great question, Chris. Well, for one, it's a long distance from anywhere. So all supplies, all personnel, a plane to charter, everything is very expensive. You can go there, but once you get there, you better be prepared because your life could be dependent on it. It is very cold. Storms can come up in an instant, even in the summer, like blistering storms, life-threatening storms. So you got to just be ready for it. Plus everything you bring in for however many days you're going. Plus you got to hire guides if you're going down with a production crew. Minimum starting $100K to do any kind of expedition, but probably going up into the $1 million or more if you're going to do a really high-end Hollywood production. Yeah, so it ain't cheap. And I know, and I've talked to different expedition groups that will take you there, and this is what they've told me. I thought too that it would be very hard or forbidden to go, and they're saying, you got a budget, we'll take you there. But you fly out of Punta Arenas, you land on the Union Glacier on the Palmer Peninsula, and from there, then you have to fly again. So it's a minimum of a couple days just to get to the South Pole, for example. And if you land and a storm kicks up, it might be a week or longer before you can even leave. So there's all these contingency plans as well to do
Wow.
an overland type trip. But that does not deter the elite. Prince Harry was doing a cross-country trip with some of his army buddies from the UK, and they went out for a week around the South Pole. And that is the rumored giant hole into the ice there, that if you still look on Google Earth, it's big blotted out. They won't show you what's there. But what's interesting is there's other places that you can see really mind-blowing stuff, like antediluvian civilizations, like possibly one of these giant craft that's supposed to be under the ice. There's supposed to be 3 of them, and they're nicknamed Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria after Columbus's voyage. And one of those, which I present in my lecture, is in the New Schwabenland area. So I'm scouring over maps before my trip, right? I just love maps. I draw maps. I'm a cartographer. And looking at maps of Antarctica during the Cold War, I came across some Nat Geo maps, and it showed all the bases in Antarctica. You guys, I'm telling you, the Nazis became West Germany, and they never left. There's one of my maps. Yep, hand-drawn by me. The Germans have always been there, and they're still there, and they control that area, including one of these giant ships, which the Farsight Institute of remote viewers went in and looked at it and said it's some kind of giant machine, probably a down craft, but it's certainly not natural made. It is something very old. It's decrepit. It's crashed. Doesn't work anymore. But there's some huge wreckage down there, not too far from their New Berlin base. And as I said, they were able to take U-boats under the ice too, and that may have been a way to access some of these under ice reptilian kingdom, perhaps, or now a lot of the elite have also sheltered there. And some people in the secret space program who have also been down there have identified 5 bases. And interestingly, they're all along that long, sinuous spine of the Palmer Peninsula, which is really 2 continents. Antarctica is the really, really old landmass of East Antarctica, which was once part of Pangaea that broke off and through continental drift has made its way all the way to the bottom of the world. But at one time, it was a steamy jungle, and the fossil record shows that. Whereas the long, sinuous West Antarctic range is only about 700 million years old, and the 2 have collided there. And that's where we were. But that's also where people think Atlantis could be, some antediluvian civilizations, as well as maybe another one of these giant craft.
But the crazy part about it, I would think, is if you had the money to do a full voyage, I'm talking about into the millions, and you discover something, they would. I think they would hide you. They'd be like, nah, he didn't see that. We're gonna hide this guy. So at the end of the day, I think that if you actually did take a full voyage, and it would be kind of pointless. I mean, you guys could see it, but I don't think it actually could make the world, like everybody see it, So I don't know. It would seem like it would be really fun, though. What do you think on that?
It would be fun at times. It would also be very grueling at times. It would also be boring and tedious. Say, sitting in a small cabin with, say, you 4 guys and me during a blizzard for 5 days. So what do we do? Play cards? Can't get the internet. Can't really do much. Read a book. I mean, you could occupy your time, but that's
we'll keep
so.
you
Those are the challenges that people have to really be realistic about.
This is amazing.
Yeah. Brad, it seems that if you watch the end of the X-Files movie, it sounds like a neat place to bring together all these conspiracy theories. But what you've mentioned, it makes the ending of that movie more justified about what an intriguing destination Antarctica is, with jungle fossils and parts of two continents crashing together.
It's a really fascinating land, really replete with so much mystery that that's why it's so popular in alternative media. So, not to throw a bucket of cold water on people thinking that it's impossible to go here or there, but it's more impossible because it's very expensive and very challenging to travel overland, as you guys would suggest. We went by boat, and most people do go by boat. About 90% of the visitors take the cruise ships or sailboats out of Ushuaia, Argentina. That is the largest port, to these uncharted lands. Yeah. And if you're flying, most out of Puentes Arenas, Chile. Now that's going to the Palmer Peninsula side. If you're going towards the New Schwabenland side, you'd fly out of Cape Town, South Africa, where most Americans that are going to go work on the base, and McMurdo is the largest base in Antarctica run by the Americans, you would fly out of Cape Town, Cooktown, New Zealand. So there's three ways to go depending on what part of the continent you want to reach. But unless you're flying direct to McMurdo or King George Island, then you got to take another flight to go inland or to the South Pole. And that can sometimes take several days because of the weather. Now, we got some days. Check this out. There were 2 days we were on these really mellow waters. 2 days, it was warm enough to be up on deck. A couple hours during the sunlight when the sun came out to just have a T-shirt on and shorts. We were getting a suntan. I even did the polar plunge, jumped in 3 times. One time just on that sunny day among the icebergs, sub-freezing water, and another time when we were at the Vernansky base run by the Ukrainians, but they let us use their sauna. So we'd run down the ladder, jump into the cold water, and come right back into the sauna. And I'll tell you, the Ukrainians like it hot. It is really very hot saunas there, over 100 degrees, but felt good at the time.
Oh, anything would feel good after doing an icy plunge.
Hey,
Man. No, it was one of those, because as you were talking about the bases, and it's one of those, I've always think if the German civilization has been built there, one of those, why do you think that they've remained, hidden to this point? Are they just build up a civilization and then make ourselves known? Or is this just one of those, we're better off if we just keep hidden and just keep building our own, basically, civilization down here?
Well, yeah, that's why they go so far, is they want to stay hidden. And what is potentially under the ice in these very large domed regions. So, for example, one of the largest freshwater lakes in the whole world is under the ice in Antarctica. It's about the size of one of our Great Lakes, like Lake Ontario. It's up there, top 10 largest freshwater lakes in the world, completely covered over with a dome of ice under the polar plateau. And the Russians, who named it Vostok after their base there, finally were able to drill down 2 miles to get to the covering of the dome. But they went down with a contaminated drill. You have to use kerosene to keep it from freezing. 2016 down again with an uncontaminated scoop. And so they were looking for things within Lake Vostok and have come across life that has never been discovered before in this lake. So you can imagine what else might be down there. They think, well, they got some bacteria that they think came off of a fish that's as yet discovered by science. So there are still many, many mysteries to be solved down in Antarctica. And I give a 90-minute talk. I'll be in Las Vegas a week from Saturday at the 5D events. I'm moderating the Super Soldier panel with Michael Jaco, James Rink, and Penny Bradley. Saturday, nice. I'm doing my Antarctica talk, and then Sunday is about the Giants. So subjects I'm very passionate in. People have a right to know and have a realistic expectations if they thought they were ever going to go to Antarctica, know what they're getting into.
Yeah, it seemed like under these domes. I mean, I'm trying to remember where I saw this, but there was someone that talked about they discovered it was almost an entire ecosystem that was warm. I mean, it was covered in ice, but it was bioluminescence, and it basically was lit to the point where you could go around here, and it was actually like a full-on greenhouse underneath this.
Yeah, stuff like that. There is also supposed to be this bluish light that emits through the ice during the summer. Of course, at the North Pole, you have 4 months of continuous 24 time hours. And in the winter, conversely, you have 4 months of total darkness. So those that glow from the sun would cease to exist 4 months a year, but you would be drenched in daylight. It must be really amazing to see that. And you can imagine when the Vikings when the Nazi U-boaters went through some of these underwater fjords and came up and entered into these ice domes for the first time anybody's ever seen it. What an adventure story to tell. That would be a great movie right then and there. And we got our ass handed to us in Operation High Jump. So there's a lot of possibilities here. Army bases, yep, for sure. But not active. See, one of the things in the Antarctica Treaty is you're not allowed to do nuclear testing, which is a peculiar law to put in there unless they were already doing that. Like we may have bombed the New Schwabenland bases in 1958 during Operation Argus. And so when the Antarctica Treaty started coming out the following year, one of the articles that was in there is no nuclear testing. Well, why would they put that in there unless maybe we lobbed a couple over there in New Schwabenland and they wanted to put an end to that? But there is not allowed any overt military activity, bombing, testing, or otherwise.
Now, do you think that was due to a treaty with whoever's down there as well? I mean, do you think that was part of it?
Well, there were already countries that made claims. Yeah, there are countries that have made claims down in Antarctica. And some of them perhaps legitimately, such as Chile and Argentina and New Zealand, as well as Australia. They all have carved out a little niche for themselves. But then you have some of the European powers like Norway and the United Kingdom, which had these historic claims, kind of like wedges in a pie. They'd say, this is our piece of pie. This is our piece of pie. So one thing the Antarctica Treaty did was to say, okay, you have some bases down here. You can continue to operate them. But we really have to make this whole continent a reserve of sorts. And for the most part, that has held. There is a growing call by some of these countries to do mining again or fishing. But the treaty says everything below 60 degrees latitude is protected including the southern oceans, are also part of the Antarctica Treaty of Preservation. And that is really what saved the great whales. Had whaling gone on even a few more years, you would have had species that have gone completely extinct, such as the blue whales, the largest mammal in the world, such as the right whale, because they were named that by the whalers because they would die the right way. Instead of sinking with their harpoons, the right whales would float, and they were just easy pickings. Had it not been for a couple of rogue pods of both of these whales, they'd have been gone. Completely extinct on this planet.
I didn't know about
They're
that.
slow to recover because the gestation period is so long. Yeah, and so that's part of Antarctica Treaty, is to preserve these magnificent whale species. You know, a lot of people don't know their geography very well, and to understand that planet Earth is an ocean planet. It's only 21% of the surface area is landmass. 79% of this planet is water covering. So these whales and the other species that live there have every right to keep living there. And they were all considered commercially extinct, meaning the main reason they stopped going down there, they just couldn't find any animals anymore. And so it's just lucky that these last pods were able to evade being wiped out, and now they're slowly starting to repopulate, largely due to the Antarctica Treaty.
That's amazing.
As well as seal populations, which have, I can report, gotten back to close to 100% levels of before 1820, when whaling and sealing started in earnest, which then decimated entire species populations in the seal and whale class.
That's crazy how people will wipe out a total species of something. I mean, it's just alarming.
Agreed. There was money in it them days.
Yeah, and Brad, just to follow up on what Chris was just talking about with the Antarctica Treaty and protecting animals, which implies legal aspects. What is the what was the impetus for some of these political figures going to Antarctica, within the last few years? They're supposedly there. Did your tour guides or anyone that you encountered have something to say about seeing these political figures visiting?
So I was there 2 years ago. Right now is the very end of the season. People are getting out of there. I know a guy that works at McMurdo, and he just left about a week or two ago. That time frame, Mark, it was all around 2015, 2016, 2017. When I was there in 2018, there were no celebrity sightings. It was in this one particular time frame that, for whatever reason, the elite, the religious leaders, and even some celebrities were going down there. Tom Hanks, of all people, but also John Kerry on Election Day 2016. You think he'd be campaigning in North America for his party, but nope, he was in Antarctica, and he went missing for about a week. So they landed in McMurdo, big State Department plane, first Secretary of State to ever go to Antarctica. Just happened to be Election Day, and he was going down there because he's a climate champion. So then they went somewhere for about a week, and came back to McMurdo, refueled, restocked, and then off they go. Where'd they go for that week? What's Kerry doing down there that's so hidden and clandestine? So giving rise to the idea that there are some of these globalist bases. And they're even named after some of the most prominent family. There's a Rothschild Island, and there's a Rockefeller Plateau, and these are all along the West Antarctic spine, this really beautiful mountain region. So that combined with the Nazis' propensity to create underground bases, yeah, they were really good at that during World War II. It was called the TOT organization, TODT, and they created what's known as Fortress Europe. They put bunkers all around the coastline, and they're really good at burrowing. Okay, so the underground base technology, as I'm sure you guys know, the DUMS, this is very long. Alternative 2 was go underground. Alternative 1 was to blow big holes in the ozone layer to let the pollution get out. What they did do was create those ozone holes. Remember when we were kids, everybody was like, oh, the ozone holes, we're all going to fry and die.
Yep.
Well, those were purposefully exploded during Project Argus, which was also the cover for lobbing a couple nukes at the Nazi base there, which then precipitated the Antarctica Treaty. So, yeah, you got a lot of mysteries down there. We could talk all night on Antarctica. And indeed, I include my latest research findings and reproduction of maps and other Antarctica type material in my new book, Beyond Esoteric, which is on the screen behind us. And that is what's known as the yellow cube, that cover illustration. I should have got Antarctica worked in there somehow, but we had that cool one of the Great Pyramids being activated. So, yeah, it's a cool place to go down there, and there were a lot of elites going there as well. And then there's questions about why the Russian patriarch Kirill went there, and in the news media before he went down there, Russia was sailing to around Saudi Arabia and the Red Sea with a fleet of boats, and then they went down there, and Patriarch Kirill went to bless it. What were they taking down there? Maybe you guys have heard, and please give me some additional data points. But it was something was found at or near Mecca, maybe even right under the Kaaba, around this time frame, 2015 or so. And this thing, whatever they found, wasn't meant to be exposed or be around people, and perhaps they needed to get it out of there, and they took it to Antarctica. So if you
I'll have to
heard about that,
look into that.
And,
yeah, no,
that's went down there, and the Patriarch Kirill went down there.
No, it almost just sounds like there was
one of the leading stories.
Yeah, this was during that time, because it was weird. I remember all those things. Kerry going down there, everybody, and it was almost like it was a global conference that was being held by certain power players.
Yeah.
And it was
right.
But no, it's always been one of those just fascinating things, because you have these, there's not a lot talked about, and so you always have all these mysteries, like, why don't we do this? And it's just like, then every time you ask them, you get stonewalled. It's like, that's classified. That's classified. That's classified. And you're like, we're just wanting to know the answers here. I mean, it's like, if it's all it is just green, wouldn't that be something to release to everybody and say, hey, we found an active jungle underneath the ice cap down here in Antarctica? That would be pretty amazing.
Exactly.
And Brad, speaking of these meetings of the elites, are you still going to be doing the How Weird Street Fair this year?
No, Mark, it got called off because of COVID.
Okay.
We couldn't do it. in 2020. We're supposed to be doing it in like 6 weeks, would have been our target date, but
Okay.
it remains to be seen if we can even do it in the fall.
Okay.
Everything's
I was just
COVID
trying.
canceled.
Okay. Well, I was just trying to work in a possible plug. I wasn't sure if that was still happening.
Oh yeah, you're sweet.
But
Keep talking. I can hear you. I just got to make a run to the restroom. I'll be right back.
okay.
All right, you got.
I'll hear your question.
All right. We have been put on bathroom pause.
Okay. This is some really cool information.
Yeah, it really is, and it's always been. It fills in some of the gaps. Like some of the questions I've always had about Antarctica. Because there's just between some of the, there's the Antarctic pyramid. There's some of these structures where you've seen them. Anything could be. I don't really go much for the Google Earth, archaeology where people, it's like, look what I found on Google Earth, because it's real easy to just add something, to troll people when, as a developer, in Google. So I don't really buy a lot of stock, but there's people that have found, they find things, as they're going through the satellite images. And so I've often wondered, and so it's really cool to have somebody that's been there, seen some of the stuff that's able to talk about it.
Brad's bringing the world closer to us.
I'm back. Thank you.
Yeah.
But most likely, I'm
Now
probably never going to make it to Antarctica. But I was just captivated by Brad's information. The wildlife there. Just getting a eyewitness account of what you can see on these, what eco-tourism type tours and other trips that are offered. Sounds like a once-in-a-lifetime trip.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing if
So how much longer do you guys want to go? Sorry about that pause, but
no, we got just a couple minutes here, and then what we'll do is we'll also try to schedule you for a follow-up one, where we can talk about this some more, plus some other works of yours in a little more in depth, since we're running out of time here. But no, I just as you're doing this, I just wanted to say, I really appreciate you coming on. Just even though we're a little delayed here, but it's been real fascinating filling in all these gaps, on some of the stuff that I've been wanting to, find out about Antarctica and stuff. And your book is the part I've read of it so far is amazingly well done. I highly compliment you on that work.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing that. Yeah, I've worked with the same editor on the whole series, and she's really amazing. Give a shout out. I have been in publishing for now 25 years, and I know what it takes to put out a real quality product. And I've often said that the only kind of books that I want to publish, either with other authors or myself, are those that I would really want to own myself. So I put a lot into polishing them up, putting in great graphics, and a lot of references. If people want to double check my sources, I hope they do. This is all about us awakening to a lot of these things that have been hidden from humanity. I know we've talked mainly about Antarctica tonight, but I'll tell you, there's so much more to go. And yeah, we could potentially talk hours. Here's your shirt, Mark. Here's Hot Weird Street Fair. The event that COVID took away.
Okay, well, hopefully.
Yep. So
this the virus is going to be eradicated really soon, and we can get back to doing your street fairs soon. We're always available to help.
I hope so.
Publicize that. And
cheers.
Brian, one thing I did want to mention about how you're helping the Three Beards podcasts, and your appearances on so many other shows, is on page 13 of your Beyond Esoteric. You write, "This unprecedented escalation in the grassroots alternative media war upon the establishment propaganda machine may be the most significant event happening in the world right now, because whoever controls the narrative controls the world." So you're uh, just adding a little bit more truth to what we're doing here on the Three Beards. I thought it was a pertinent passage from your book.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Yeah, that's a good one, and that's what it is. It's all of us really co-creating this experience together. You guys are doing the podcasts, I'm doing books and a lot of interviews and public speaking. We just add the parts we know and we do well, and hopefully we're all part of this big co-creation of a new and better world that we can be proud to pass on to that little one there with you, Viking, and have a better world in futures. I'm sure you guys know that. I'm preaching to the choir here, but there you are, Chris. How you doing, man? Where are you guys all located, by the way?
Central Florida.
Okay. You guys all know each other from like childhood or college?
No, we all work together.
Three Beards come together.
We actually all met each other and worked, and we just kind of, it's a really weird story. I just randomly brought the idea to Chris. It's like, you want to do a pod? He's like, sure. And then we talked to Austin. He's like, yeah. And then, about 8 months, I'd say, at least 8 months into it, 9, maybe 10 months is when we ended up meeting up with Mark.
Yeah.
And so, and that was, it kind of changed the whole direction of the show. But yeah, definitely we're going to want to get you back on so we could talk about the other, more, all the other esoteric, points that you bring, not just Antarctica, and I'll be on my non-sick A game on that episode. So I apologize, everybody. I'm a little behind on this one.
So, no worries.
Yeah, COVID's a killer.
So, have you guys been down to Coral Castle?
No, I want to get there.
Been to the Coral Castle down in Homestead, Florida? You guys,
that's one of my bucket lists.
Man. That place is amazing. I just went for the first time a little over a year ago. I was speaking at a conference in Orlando. It's the only modern megalithic site in the world, built single-handedly by this 5'1" Latvian immigrant who was somehow able to single-handedly 30-ton blocks and put them in place by himself. Just the mystery of how this guy did it.
So you do come to,
you guys aren't too far away from there.
Here.
So I guess that's the travel writer in me. I'm always encouraging people to go check out places.
No, that's the thing. I moved down here from Oregon, so that's on the bucket list of things to visit while I'm here.
So you do come to Orlando for conventions?
Yeah, right on. Yeah. Is that where you guys are based out of, Orlando?
Yep, just right outside of it.
Are you allowed to say?
Oh yeah. We all live, in and around Winter
underground
Garden. Yep. In and around Winter Garden, Florida.
I was in. Okay. Remember seeing that on a map somewhere near Orlando. Yeah, Marianne Popek does some conferences that I've spoke at. The
name sounds familiar. I've seen that name.
Last years. Yeah. I travel around, but this is the year of the cancel culture, and so a lot of I'm doing 5 online conferences and only 2 live ones from now until the end of summer. And one of them is the Vegas one coming right up, and it's going to be a good one. And anybody out west here, 5devents.com. A week from Friday it starts.
Shoot that information.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the road quite a bit.
Yeah, so shoot that information over, and we'll promote that for you too. So we can get that out so people can go there for you. So, well, Brad, appreciate you coming on, sir. Thank you very much. Like I said to everybody, go check out his book, Beyond Esoteric, and his other works. Mark has them right there. I said, check. Yep, they got, and you can get all those are available. Should be available on Amazon. Is there any place that's easier to get them to? Maybe a signed copy.
CCC Publishing.
Okay, so
yeah, I'll give you that link. And if people want to know more about me, you can go to bradolsen.com.
There you go.
Also have my schedule of upcoming events.
Awesome.
Right on.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. Like I said,
all right, guys. Well, that was cool. Let's do it again sometime.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll give message
month or so. About until April.
Yep. Well, we will definitely do that. Guys. So,
well, you have a great night. Good seeing you.
You too.
Thanks, Brad. Take care.
All right, everybody. So this was my appearance today. So you're. I hope I wasn't too bad for you.
Better than ever.
Oh my God! Yeah, everybody go Nanny Cakes 407 on Facebook. Give her a call at 407-923-2898. Mention us 3 bearded guys, and you're going to save 15% off your cake order here in the Central Florida area. 3beardspodcast.com. Go to patreon.com/3beardspodcast. Check us out on all social media, YouTube channel. We now have we have now been able to rename it to something that's not some massive 12-character thing. It now says 3 Beards Podcast. And we are generously rebroadcast on Patriot Radio. Download the Zeno Radio app. We are rebroadcast every Thursday night at 8 p.m. courtesy of J&J Beard Company. Check them out at jjbeardco.com. Let them know that you heard it from us, and we'll appreciate that from you very much. So everybody, thank you for watching. Appreciate it, everybody. It's going to be hard to do this while I'm holding the phone. Good night.
Yeah.